Well, good morning and welcome to 3 a.m. as the clock ticks, not as eternity ticks, because there's no ticks in eternity. Just a tiny mad idea that was healed in the resurrection of God's Son, of which we are all now participating, whether we are aware of that or not. Personally, I am aware of it and try to stay aware of it throughout the day by using the mind training of A Course in Miracles. But anyway, I wanted to make this video for, I don't know, there's like 6 or 7 PowerPoints for this video that are in my mind, and they're all sort of like this, and I don't know where to start, so I've just woken up with it. Anyone who was in the Zoom the other day would have seen Tyna going through a moment of struggle, I guess. Let's call it struggle for a second. Going through a moment of struggle. What looks like struggle on the physical level with an attachment that she has, but which looks like racism, or maybe not even racism. Looks like victimhood. Having been through many moments of release with regards to different aspects of denial that have been prevalent and present in my own mind, some immediately known, some hidden. I feel for her as I feel for everybody who undergoes this course, who undergoes this transition from duality back to the singular perspective of self. And you have to talk about it from the dualistic perspective, because you find yourself in time. It doesn't help to be transcendent and just try to obliviate the nature of the human condition with spiritual concepts. Oh, we're all one, dear one, because that's transcendence, which is what Tyna was asking in the Zoom. Transformation is when you face your demons, when you accept that they're there and you choose to let them go, rather than to know they're there and to just avoid them. When you transform something, you take responsibility for it, and you draw your circle, and you stay put in that circle, in that responsibility, in order to, and the circle's a mental circle. It's a place of healing. It's an idea of, I'm not doing anything else until this is healed in me. It's like Jesus in the desert, 40 days and 40 nights to face his temptations. Because everybody who comes to this world has their own package. It doesn't matter how it plays out. It's the same exact package. It may play out as victimhood, racism, bigotry, all of those isms and the 7 deadly sins, everything, like anything that disturbs the peace of mind, anything that maintains an idea of separation. Everybody comes with it. You're born into this world. The world is the symbol of it. Your body is the symbol of the ego. And the ego is one idea. One false idea that needs to be atoned for, or needs to be accepted atonement for, as an idea of, I was simply wrong about myself. Now that can take on some extreme, or what seems to be extreme proportions, and some diverse dimensions from person to person, and everybody reacts to their own, the exposure of their own falsity in different ways. Some people are glad to have their falsity exposed and their shortcomings exposed as an indicator of an idea of separation, so that can be healed, and other people are terrified of it, unprepared to face what comes. Ultimately, what comes is revelation. You're learning to be miracle-minded to become revelation-ready. But the process of miracle-mindedness is always taken on board with faith. That's what miracle-mindedness is. I need to have faith in this situation that this too shall pass. This too will be healed. This too I can accept atonement for. No matter how ominous and how looming and how dark the denial seems, the package seems, and they come up in chunks. They come up in energies, weights of energy, if you can put energy into a weight category. I often have a little saying that says you can't offer a 2-pound prayer for a 10-pound problem. It's kind of like that. The integrity of the heart, you got to get to where the problem is. You've got to feel it. You've got to really identify with it and go there. Jesus says in the Course, you've got to seek for the blocks and find them. It's one thing to know they're there, but you got to find them. You got to look at them square in the face. You have to look your illusions, look your ghosts directly to see that they're nothing. They all exist from the past. Past ideas, future anticipation, pre-programming. I think, well, I've lost track of how many long ago. I've lost track of how many confrontations with fear, which has shown up as my own bullshit. I've lost track of how many confrontations I've made on the small end of the scale daily. On just the little ones, the little fears, like the bump in the night kind of fears, those sorts of ones that bring up that sort of I've connected with that ooh and let it go many times in that sort of sense. The deep-rooted ones, man, probably 4 or 5 major ones, major catalysts. My teacher used to call them ring pass knots. You go along, you're having miracles, you're talking to Jesus, you're going through this fear, through that fear, and then all of a sudden, bang, here's the big boss. Like playing a video game. But victimhood and racism, bigotry, every kind of judgment, they're all met the same way and dispatched the same way with a miracle. And prayer is the medium of miracles. You get to the point you just want a miracle. You don't want to define it anymore, because God knows what you want before you ask. You're asking for, the heart is always asking for the release of God's Son from the dream of death. That happens through prayer. It's like, use your pain for prayer. Recognize it, go there to the place where it is, and then use it. It's energy. Use that energy for prayer. You're never more honest than when you're in the dark night of the soul. You're never more honest than when you're right down in that ugly, ugly swill. Borrow that word from a beautiful speech that I heard recently. Atonement is personal. There is a surrender of the personal dream. a release of the personal dream, which, when released from it, it leaves you in the world but not of it, in the dream proper, or in the original dream, or in the Christ-minded dream, where you are, well, not that you are, where you have become willing to look beyond the illusions of your denial and to see the Christ in all things, to see the Christ in your brother. You no longer see male or female, black or white, right or wrong, good or bad. You've become completely responsible to the atonement, and you have entered into more celestial arrangements with yourself and with the universe as this physical entity, mind, avatar being utilized, as well as within the mind proper, the mind whole sense of self. And whatever the part is that you play, whatever the part is that you are involved in with others, I know Maharishi says there are no others, and I know for a fact there are no others, but within the illusion, there is the illusion of others. And that's where you play out the cause and effect relationships of your experience, your teaching and learning experience. And when you enter into the more celestial realms of association, the relationship that you end up with others becomes one of purely teaching and learning, whether you utter a single word or not. I had somebody come to me the other day and yesterday who went across the road to the coffee shop, a friend of mine who's next door here, someone that I see quite often. And she told me, the lady in the coffee shop says you have a beautiful energy. I don't think I've ever been described as having a beautiful energy before. I mean, many of my past references have always been, I have the energy of an angry young man, angry at himself and angry at the world. But that was long ago, and I don't really remember that person, that identity, that association. I seem to find myself now representing and as a representative of something else. That shows up in the moment. It's a momentary. If you ask me, did I do something in the past or have I said something in the past, I would have to say no, because that's more now true to me than looking for past references, trying to corroborate them with what's being presented as an idea of temporal self and making a decision about it. My mind seems to, when I'm in silence, when I'm just by myself, let's say, as this resting avatar, which I'm utilizing, I don't seem to find those references for myself. You could say, oh, Dave, you've just got a very bad memory, but it goes beyond that. It goes to the point where there is no Dave. Dave's not even here. There is no here. And that's still paradoxical, I know. Whilst I find myself seemingly in the illusion through this avatar, I'm going to continue to refer to me as the me, as the form association. Adidar Samaranch, or Dar John, I think he was, or Dar, would have coined the phrase God-man, where you go from being man to being God-man within the dream until you lay the vessel aside and you go from being Homo sapien to Homo illumina, And these days I am more in that spectrum of Homo illumina than I am Homo sapien. I still have ideas of Homo sapien, but I have no use for those ideas. It's like they're fading at such a rapid pace that the old Buddhist idea that it takes 12 or 14 lifetimes to purify the mind is such a falsity to me. It's like the miracle, the idea of deferral to God, the idea of the higher power or the all-pervasive is as being something that I have a connection to, which expedites the process according to my individual willingness to undergo what is required, is something that is now such a true and proven personal perspective that anything contrary to that seems ridiculous. The miracle is incredible. The opening of the mind to source, the stillness of the mind, and that opening to the creative authority of all living things, of all things, which we call God, and which in Buddhism is called no mind, the state of no mind. It is a state, but the opening of the mind to that state, like that. It expedites that transitionary process, that transitionary sense of awakening. So you go from your own individual dream of denial, death, suffering, struggle, and all of the things that it contains, to the in the world but not of it sort of dream where you just find yourself here and it's almost as if you're an observer. Well, you are really the observer. You're the observer and also here as representative of the universal curriculum. And when you begin with that curriculum, you find that you go through whatever you have to go through. And for Tyna, she's been facing this particular demon, let's call it a demon, this particular ism, this particular aspect of her package of denial for quite some time. Pardon me. It's been coming up. And I've had many of those been coming up. I had one that came up for years with this woman that used to have this fascination with me, literally for about 3 years. It was a thorn in my side, and then it just became intolerable. It just got to such a fever pitch that I had to confront it. And I ended up giving it to the Holy Spirit because I didn't know how to confront it. It brought up all my anger. Since that confrontation, since that open-minded deferral to the Holy Spirit, the play out of that healing occurred. I realized in the moment of that healing, as dramatic as it seemed, I realized the release of that package, of that part of my aspect, that aspect of my package of denial. I realized the release of it in that instant, in that moment. It was gone, and I knew it was gone. Like dropping down a heavy load, just instantly, gone. And I haven't been angry since. I get assertive about stuff, but there's a difference between assertive and angry. Everything gets flipped over and used in a different context. Actually, I find that I'm even less assertive about things these days. There's this kind of a letting go of everything, and I attribute that to the laying aside of the vessel, preparing for that moment, because you know that it's coming and it's inevitable. All concepts have to be laid aside, including spiritual ones. The mind will always want to try and work out what it's going to look like. What is this healing supposed to look like? How am I supposed to get through this? And the mind that asks questions always asks questions like that in order to build a better defense against the healing. It would convince you that it's asking these questions as a matter of diligence and integrity in order to help facilitate the healing quicker and faster and more easy, but that's not true. It's only asking questions to try and preempt the miracle, to try and preempt divine intervention and to interfere with it. When you take a leap of faith, I think everyone's probably seen the tarot card, and I'm not an advocate of tarot in any way, shape or form, but everyone's probably seen that card of the Fool, where the Fool is stepping out off the precipice to fall to certain death. But it's not until you take that step, it's not until you take that step from the precipice, that mental step from the precipice, where you are trusting in God and you finally have given up trying to figure it out for yourself, how to do anything or how to defend yourself against the advent of the light, that you enter into a real moment. And I call it I call it a real moment because it's exhilarating, it's thrilling, it's crazy how it makes you feel to live in faith, to step out in faith, to abandon rationale and cast everything into the wind and just say, fuck it, in the realization you've got nothing to lose. It's liberating, it's beautiful. Eventually it just becomes the way you are. You do it so often and you live your life in faith to such an extent that you can't remember what coping and scrambling and trying to keep it all together is. You don't remember how that goes. You just don't remember because you've let go of all the references that give it any kind of credibility as something that you have to deal with one way or the other. You've just let it go. And I remember having a preamble with Tyna before we did the Zoom about she was feeling a certain way about the Super Bowl, and they were removing the banner that says end racism. And having confronted and been through racism before the Course in Miracles, I was looking at ideas of healing things, having been through that for my own self, having experienced it as my brother and I were the only two white children in a school in Papua New Guinea when we were very little. My brother was 5 and I think I was 7. Having carried those memories and those emotional scars for such a long time until my late 20s, might have even been when I was 30, 31. I was at a rainbow gathering at Banu Banu here in Australia. And I had to make a confrontation with a brother in order to let go of the fear that I had, which came up in me every time I saw somebody with a different colour skin, black skin more predominantly, since that was my original confrontation as a child. And that was horrible. That was a lingering awareness I had of that fear for a long, long time. And it was good to let it go. It was good to put it to rest. And I did that simply by asking a brother of dark skin for a hug. I had to confront myself. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. I knew it was there. I didn't even expect it to come up that day, but I knew I had to let it go by confronting it within myself, not by ignoring it, transcending it, pretending that I'm spiritual and everything's all good. I had to make the confrontation. My brother was beautiful about it. My brother played his part perfectly. And love was restored where there was doubt, where there was fear. Imagine walking down the street being fearful of people coming towards you because of the colour of their skin. Simply because as a child you were beaten and ostracised and judged because of the colour of your skin. A memory long repressed. I like Sigmund Freud. He says unexpressed emotions or repressed emotions that remain unexpressed do not die. They come forth later in uglier ways. And that was certainly true for me, that those emotions, those fearful emotions and those defensive emotions certainly would come up every time for me later in uglier ways. And of course you don't understand where they're coming from. You don't remember your childhood. You lock that shit away deep in the dark vault of, I don't want to look at this. And so we were talking about the banner being taken down at the Super Bowl to end racism. And I was so overjoyed to hear that. Because when you keep the indicators and the references in front of you and refuse to let them go, you're actually perpetuating the problem. And if you can imagine a small child going to the Super Bowl, they've just learned to read, going to the Super Bowl, and they see a banner that says end racism. You got to be aware there's at the Super Bowl there would be people of every race, colour and creed sitting there watching that game. And the child reads the banner, "Daddy, what's racism? Can you explain racism to me?" All of a sudden, that child develops a concept. Ooh, I better watch out for that. I better be careful of that. I didn't know there's people in the world like that. All of a sudden, you become one of those people in the world instantly. There you are. You're now a racist. You maintain and you hold the concept, and you'll build an awareness to be vigilant for it in your own mind as an idea of defense. That's where it starts. A seed takes root. And in this world, it's virtually impossible. Sad to say, but it's virtually impossible to get beyond all of that, because this world is a classroom where tackling racism, tackling bigotry, tackling every other kind of ism you can imagine isn't the purpose of the lessons. The purpose of the lessons is to get beyond the need for the lessons themselves. Lessons in morality and lessons in ethics and lessons in all of these things are usually presented through storytelling. We don't deal with those lessons by destroying the story, because then there would be no way to learn the lesson. And the purpose of the lesson is reassociation in our case. So you have to have icons of association that you can relate to in order to see the power of your mind in transition, to be able to make a decision about change. I choose to let this go. I see I have it within me. I see that somewhere I've picked it up. On my journey of in the world but not of it, on my journey of simply walking the straight path, the middle path, somewhere I've diverted on my soul journey and I've picked up a seed which has taken root. There's nothing wrong with that. That's what the world is for. You come with a whole package. You come with the world in place. And it's not that you've really picked up a seed. The seeds come with you, but they germinate here. They're given the chance to germinate here. And whilst that might seem ugly, that's the way it is, which is why Jesus was sent in to bring about an end to this domain, a closure to this errant dimension that we've all tumbled into, this hell. Jesus came 2,000 years ago to save us from this, from ourselves, from this experience we have chosen to be separate from God, which is unlike the loving domain of God in every way. Unlike eternity, where I belong, where you belong and are from and are now, in every way, merely dreaming of separation from each other in many ways. I think it was Martin Luther who had a dream. I have a dream. John Lennon had the same dream he imagined. Gandhi. You know, one of the beautiful references I love, with the same idea as that take down the banner of end racism. In Gandhi's experience, in the experience of Gandhi, and the takeaway, the lesson I had from Gandhi was he berated the Muslims for waving their black flags. Take down those flags, they separate you. Without those flags, we are all brothers. It's the religion. It's the splitting up, the separating out. My way and your way. This path and that path. Don't you understand that all paths to God are sacred? There is no better way. And every prophet and every teacher, including me who walks the world, is capable of error, is capable of representing the path with mistakes. Look beyond those mistakes. The whole dimension is a mistake. The whole dimension is a tiny mad idea at which the Son of God remembered not to laugh, which has now been healed in the atonement, which I am accepting, have accepted. And am doing my best to represent to others. And Jesus calls for teachers. The world is in need of teachers. He called me and I said yes. Me, this ratbag kid from the suburbs. This drug-riddled alcoholic. Well, not now, but one time. I realised the need. I realised that my brothers need help. Didn't matter their skin color, didn't matter their nationality, their religion, didn't matter their financial circumstances, didn't matter whether they were from the left of politics or the right of politics. They need help because of where they are. I need help because of where I am in this dream, albeit illusory. But I staggered around in the dark for decades. About 2 decades, 3 decades. I guess 3 decades proper, until illumination occurred. Looking for a way to help myself, to relieve myself from this feeling of emptiness, and to make a difference in the world that I saw as being so unjust, so biased. What difference I make, I don't really know. But the lady in the shop across the road thinks I have lovely energy, so there you go. Maybe it's just that one person, that one moment. It's all you're looking for, is that one moment. You get to the point where you just can't abide error in yourself anymore. You get to the point where you can't tolerate how you see things. You can't tolerate the world how it is. You just can't take it anymore. And at that point, if you have enough faith, you'll find yourself in prayer. If you don't, you'll find yourself at the end of a rope. It's funny, Tina and I had a conversation a little while ago about how people perceive spirituality and how they perceive their spiritual path. And we have this camaraderie and this brotherhood of, it's an acknowledging brotherhood, that when Jesus says the path is steep and there's few on the path, that's true for the both of us. We know that. It's the same with me and Annie and me and God, anyone who I'm familiar with who's gone through this course as a proper confrontation with fear, as a proper journey into fear. I've met many, many people who seem to read the course and only read the nice bits, read the bits that tell you how holy you are and how beautiful you are. But that still leaves you empty. It still leaves you in this false association where it's transcendent, not transformative. You always find in those transformative moments where you can't take it anymore that all your brothers have got you to that far. All the cause and effect relationships that you've been in have brought you to that point of surrender, that point of giving up, that point of fuck it. And from there, it's just you and God, and the only transition catalyst is prayer. And the prayer of the heart, put there by God, it comes out automatically. It just comes out automatically. And you pray for an experience. You want to know, I want release from this. And you kind of demand it. You demand the release. It's like, I do not want this. And there's this, you're demanding help. You're asking and demanding at the same time. And it's like, to ask for what you already have within you isn't really asking for something. It's an opening to receiving. It's not a desire. It's an alignment. We try to express about it through words, but words, words can only bring you to the edge, and then you have to jump. Then you have to let go. How you do that is how you do that. There's no way to do it. You just find yourself doing it. It's your willingness. That's all. Whatever it takes, Lord, whatever this is meant to look like, whatever it takes, I'm willing to go through it. Use me. Use me. Show me. Even if it means the end of this vessel. Because that's all that was on the horizon anyway. It is so beautiful to be released from false perceptions of self. To be able to see all brothers as the Christ, to look beyond the illusion of form, to look beyond the stories, the history, the future of what I think my story might be, to look beyond all of that crap, all of that filthy swill, and just see my loving brother of Christ, in Christ, of Christ. You can't describe how beautiful that is. You see the body, but perceive the spirit. I feel particularly blessed. I've experienced direct union with God in my lifetime. I'm the only person I know that I know many people actually who've had experiences of union with God, but in my latter day arrangement, I'm the only person I know. I know many people who've had holy instants, who've laid everything on the line and just said, fuck it, because they've realized they've got nothing to lose. Nothing. Give up the world and follow me. That's the call. Give up the world and follow me. That's Jesus directly. Bring one robe, follow me. I feel like there should be a robe shop somewhere around so we can, I love the literal translation of the New Testament. It's so beautiful, as well as the figurative. The robe shop. It'd be like getting a baptism. You go in, you get your robe, you leave everything else there and you walk out. And then now what? It has begun. You got to get out of that comfort zone. The comfort zone is a killer. There's nothing real going on in comfort zone. There's nothing real. Nothing real at all. It takes a long time to divest yourself of safety and preparations for the future and what might come, whilst you still find yourself beset by comfort zones. I find myself going from one zone to another constantly. There seems to be this, I don't even know. There's just a knowing, all right, it's time to leave now, it's time to go to the next thing, do the next thing. At one time I would have been fearful of that, but now there's just, yes, Lord. And it's funny, as an awakened mind, I guess I can see the opportunities everywhere. I'll sit in a cafe perhaps and overhear a conversation that two people behind me might be having, and I can put my finger on my nose and accept atonement for that, and that will change, I know, because that is only mind experiencing something. But to expedite that change, to bring it to fruition as quickly as possible, because delay in time is tragic. That's something that I perceive the opportunity for healing so easily. It's like everything is an open door. There is nothing hidden. There is no questions. There's no doubts. It's like all of a sudden I seem to find myself very much like a headmaster in a school, and you walk into any classroom, you know the lesson being taught. You know how the children have to learn it. You know the easy way and the hard way. You know that there are some students that naturally gravitate to that lesson because it's part of their package, and there are others that probably won't pass that class, and they'll have to pass their sense of self in a different class. Sorry for the wobbly camera. My tripod broke the other day, and I haven't got another one. So if anyone has a spare selfie stick with a tripod, that would be appreciative. I would be appreciative. I'm sure one will come along. Anyway, I might go back to bed for an hour and it's not an easy path to walk. If it's not turning you on your back, on your head, every which way but loose, you're not on the path. If you're not making the confrontations with fear, you're not doing the work. You're simply transcending. You got to get down into the filthy swill with the Holy Spirit and, Father, look at this with me. Heal my mind of this. But you have your brothers. Your brothers can go with you right to the edge of the precipice. They'll be there for you when you get back to celebrate and to experience the joy of your release. Step into the unknown. Let go. Just let go. Give it to God. Feel it to heal it. Give it to God. Get right to the bottom of that iceberg. What you see on the top is just a tip. Stay in that circle till you can't take it anymore. Stay in that circle until the prayer of your heart is so honest that it's feels like your body is going to split in two. That's the meaning of Jesus in the Bible. The curtains of the temple were rent in two. The veil is torn in half, and you see the truth. The body feels like it is going to split. The body is the illusion, the veil. It's the symbol of it. And it does feel like it's going to fucking... I love you.